All right, guys, we're rolling. One thing I wanted to get into before we get into the actual Kahoots, this is review session 7, and here we're going to be covering lecture 7, which is property valuation fundamentals. I just posted an announcement onto Canvas, and there seems to be a bit of a delay. Like even the announcement hasn't come through for me in my email, so you guys might not have received the announcement. But just so you're aware, this is optional. This is for chocolates. Your participation marks will be solely based on your fully viewing the lecture videos. I'll just point them out to you just in case. So here's the modules. Here we have review session 7, that's today. Covers lecture 7 as it states here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lecture videos. So this week and next week for lecture 8, which is review session number 8, all you have to do is fully view the lecture videos and complete little embedded quizzes at the end of each of these. So this one by right now, although I'll give you a little bit of grace period, a couple hours before I download the data and determine the marks. And next week, so next Wednesday at 10 a.m., it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 videos. Okay, so you need to have watched those by 10 a.m. next Wednesday, just prior to the start of our live stream review session number 8. And the actual participation in this review session, your virtual attendance, is really only to win some chocolates. I mean, it's good for you anyway to kind of be paying attention, but if you want to view the recording of this, which I'm making right now, or I might just leave it to YouTube, which is recording as well. Either way, you should be watching the recordings, but you don't have to be here live other than if you'd like to win chocolates. So that's what we're all about right now. So before we get started, I just want to point out one thing. A student asked, because they would have seen it in the lecture recording. Here is a worked example that I have now published, and so this is referred to in the lecture 8 lecture videos, which is a bit of advance. You don't need to have watched them by now, but if you want to get a head start on your assignment number 2, you're going to need to watch these videos, because each part B of these really walk you through completing your assignment. And then here's a spreadsheet of a worked example that you could use and help you again complete your assignment. So that's been published now, so if you're looking for that, you'll find it here under modules review session 8 lecture 8. There it is. The other thing that I published, and that's more up at the top, is an extract from QV Cost Builder. The library in its ultimate wisdom has one whopping account for using and getting into the web-based QV Cost Builder, which has construction cost information, and it's the only real public source, or it's not public in a sense, you got to pay for it, but it's the only published source of building cost information in New Zealand. And unfortunately, that online access is limited to one person at a time. So if you're on there, you will be bumped off if somebody else gets on there, and it's quite a bit of a pain with 300 students in this one course alone. It basically becomes impossible, unusable. So I've gone on there and taken an extract. I did that last year. That's why it's June 2019. I tried to do it this year, and I started getting bumped off because I didn't do it soon enough, and you guys have already gotten your assignment and you started using it, and I'm not going to try to play the game of getting on there at 2 a.m. in the morning or 3 a.m. to make sure I could download the whole thing without getting bumped off. So at the end of the day, you could either, if you want to get on there at 3 a.m. to make sure you have access to it and not get bumped off, you could use the updated, I think it's May 2020 is the information as of that date, the cost information, or you could use June 2019. If you use the old stuff, just use those figures. Don't need to inflate them or do anything. Even May 2020 is not today's figures technically, so just be sure in your write-up of your assignment that you stipulate to the marker to the reader what cost information you are referring to when you have produced your cost estimates for the cost approach of valuing your subject property. Okay. So anyway, there's a Canvas announcement. I talk about that as well, just in case you've missed that. So I talk about this. I provide you a link as well to the information on the library website. I also posted a student raised a red flag and said that one of the approaches that I use in my kind of walkthrough in Lecture 8 no longer really works because information that used to be contained on the quotable value QV website has pretty much fundamentally changed. That whole website's been overhauled, and I explained that in this announcement, and I offer you 2 alternative approaches other than what I demonstrated in the lecture video. So please refer to this, very important to be able to complete the cost approach element, because one of the things you need to do in the cost approach is to value the land cost, quote unquote, which is really just what is the market value of the land, is what you're trying to estimate, and then you add on to that the hard costs and the other soft costs of reconstructing, rebuilding the house. Okay. So, without further ado, we're going to boogie on over here, and I'm going to see how many of you are paying attention. Now, if there's only 12 people listening right now and competing now, then you're pretty much guaranteed, no matter how bad you do on this, to get a chocolate. So I'm going to provide, there's 12 individually wrapped chocolates in each bag of Whittaker's, and I'm going to give 1 bag per Kahoot. So I'm not going to work through the discussion questions like I would in class. I'm just going to treat these all as tournaments. And so we're just going to start off with the very first one. If you don't know, here in the home page, Property 102, there is a link to Kahoot tournaments. So you click on that link, and it'll bring you to a page where it's going to ask you for the Kahoot pin. And we're going to find that pin in just a second. So review session number 7, discussion questions. This will be our first tournament. Go to teach, we'll run a good old classic. And please use your UPIs, otherwise I won't be able to identify you. So UPIs only, okay, no cool nicknames, otherwise, I mean, I can't give you a chocolate. So 8487899 is the pin, UPIs only, if you would like to win chocolate. Okay, I have a few participating, 4, 5, 6. Let's see if there's at least 12. Oh, well more than 12. Oh, look at you guys. Okay, don't get too many in there because then your odds are going to go down. I'll give you guys a little bit more time. I know there's a lag in this YouTube stream, so I'll give you a little bit of time. Uh-oh, somebody checked in their whole email address. Try to get just UPI. That's just the beginning of the email address, guys. I'll give you another second, and okay, maybe 33. That's a nice number. 34. Okay, here we go. First Kahoot. Review session 7. Type answer. Double points. The property being valued is commonly referred to as a blank property. What is that word? Okay, that's a 1-word answer. What do valuers refer to the object that they are valuing? This is double points, guys. No huge pressure, but keep that in mind. All right, here we go. Let's see how awesome you do. $29. That's pretty high. I don't know how many are in the thing right now, but anyway, good job. Here we go. Next. Which of the following valuation assignments focuses on improvements rather than land and improvements? So there was several different valuation assignments that we covered in this lecture, and here are some of them. Market value, investment value, insurable value. None of these answers are correct. Okay. So which of those answers is the best answer? here in this multiple choice. Man, you guys are on fire. Oh, of course, you guys are my best students, I could tell. 34 of you. So insurable value. And the reason for that is this is really about a replacement cost. Think of a fire, some kind of disaster strikes, and you have insurance to cover you for that risk. If your house burns down right to the ground, or whatever, gets kind of a write-off, you could bulldoze it, and the land itself doesn't typically get damaged. We're not talking about like a nuclear blast or something happens, but so you're usually focused on just how much it's going to cost to essentially redevelop that site, and the land value is not really part of it at all. All right, here we go. True, false. The main measure of utility for industrial property is a combination of floor area and stud height. Is that a true or a false statement? So industrial property. So utility, remember, is usefulness, a measure of how useful something is. You could get something out of it. So for industrial, is it really about the floor area and the stud height? Heck yeah. Good job. Don't worry about it. If this was you, I'm sure it was just a mistake. Okay, you just like the color red. No big deal. All right, we're moving on over. As discussed, the key measure of utility of a house, like utility again, is its what? Okay, now this can be fairly debatable, but the best answer is what was discussed in the lectures. So, as always is the case, and it's not just my course, it's any course, you have to go by what is contained in the lectures. Yeah, and so exactly as I thought it would be, the second highest one is floor area, and that's the debatable bit. You could argue that floor area actually is the key measure of utility. As I've argued in the lectures, which you're presented with a question like this, you have to go with what I argued, but you could debate that. And you could actually win some people over and say, I think floor area is the key measure. But again, as I explained in the lectures, I would argue that it's the number of bedrooms. But it's debatable. Number 5. New Zealand's most timely, complete, and uniform housing supply information is comprised of code compliance data. Is that a true or a false statement? So far, you guys are on fire. Best students I got for sure. You're all my A++ students. Let's see if you stay that way. Ooh, what happened, guys? I'm glad to see more got it right than wrong. Okay? So, for all you guys to say, what the? In a perfect world, that would be the most awesome data, wouldn't it? If we had code compliance data that was supplied timely and consistent, but that's just not our reality here in New Zealand. What we have here in New Zealand is building consent data. Yeah, and a building consent is not exactly house supply. That's an intention to produce new supply. But unfortunately, we don't have actual code compliance, which is about the completed, say, new dwellings. That would be ideal, but we don't have that right at this stage as far as our best source for that information. OECD and US Fed, Federal Reserve, studies state that a credit expansion accounts for up to what percent of the rise in house prices? 25%? 50%? 75%? Ah, come on. None of these are even close. There's a couple studies that I pointed out. Okay, and there's others, but these are two key ones. That's right, about half. About half. Okay, and this, well, you would have seen in this lecture that I have quite a focus on the role of credit. So the banks pumping money, liquidity into the market, and how that might influence house prices. True or false? Gross rental yields underestimate actual realized returns as they don't count holding costs such as rates, interest, insurance, etc. Is that a true statement or a false statement? Gross rental yields underestimate actual realized yields. Now remember what kind of questions I like. What kind of answers I mean. Dang, guys, see, you fell for it. You fell for it. You didn't think it through. Gross rental yields do underestimate that, and I made that point in the lectures. Yeah, so because that, and that's the stuff that's always reported. You go to interest.co.nz, yeah, quite a popular website if you want to understand property-related stuff. It's more balanced than a lot of other sources of information, and they present things like gross rental yields, which is simply the gross rent, yeah, the total, amount that you get per week from your tenant times 52 weeks of the year. And the reality is you never get that in your pocket. You take that figure and you divide it into the price or the value of the house at a given time. That gives you your gross rental yield. You'll never experience that. So it's always, let's see, gross rental yields. Yeah, no, understate actual returns. Oh, they over. Oh my gosh. This is a cock-up on my part. Gross rental yields overestimate actual realized yield. Oh, now I see what happened. This is totally screwed up. I'll fix that, you guys, before we do the self-paced Kahoot challenge. This is just poorly worded. I see where the confusion is. Sorry, my bad. I confused myself. Anyway, at the end of the day, gross rental yields are overestimated. They're too large in a sense. Okay, you'll never realize that return because that return is gross. It's before you have some basic like rates is the very bare minimum. Okay, you pay in cash, you won't have interest charges. If you don't have a loan, you don't necessarily have to have insurance. You don't have to repair things. You could give them the bird and say, "Forget you, tenant. I'm not going to pay anything." But by the very bare minimum, you have to pay rates. And actually, by the very bare minimum, legally, you need to pay water charges. So you have to ensure that there's water supply to the property. So there are some very basic things that a landlord must pay for, and therefore they will never realize the gross rental yield. So anyway, I'll tidy this up, guys. Sorry about that. My bad. Here it is, podium. And I know some of you guys might have been thrown and it cost you a chocolate. I get that. I apologize. It's not much I could do now. All right, let's skip this animation. And I'll just show you like I have in the past. Oh, I don't want full screen. How do I get out of here? How do I get out of here? Oh, next. Sorry, guys. View full report. View report. Survey says, drumroll please. Come on, players. Got 39 people signed up now. And here are your top 12. There you are. Good job. All right. So you guys are in line for chocolates. Wonderful. Okay. Session number 7, tournament number 1. Boom. Hopefully I don't have a cock up on this one. This is the second one. Another bag of chocolates coming up. Okay, the pin number for the second tournament is 2217160. 2217160. And if you guys win 3 chocolates, whatever, I'll give you 3. Yeah. If you win it, you win it. And you'll get it. If all your teeth fall out because you had too many chocolates, they all fall out. Let's see if it's the same 33. Same 30. I had 39 before. Come on. Come on, 39. 35. Come on. Come on. Give you a couple more seconds. I don't want to cheat you out of chocolates. 2 more? No? No? And, okay. Term number 1. 3, 2, 1. Got 5 questions. First, true, false. Regarding the 4 factors of value, utility and desirability relate primarily to individual assets. Is that a true or a false statement? So there was 4 factors of value. One of them was utility, another one was desirability. Do those relate to the individual assets? It's a question. Statement. That's right. That's a true statement. Okay. The easier one probably to appreciate is utility. Okay. That again, like I said, In residential, it's bedrooms. In industrial, it tends to be floor area and stead height. So that must relate to the individual asset because it's unique to the asset. Okay, question number 2. Bank lending policy in 1981 was loan payments shouldn't exceed something of breadwinner's earnings. So the breadwinner, the top earner of the household, what was the kind of limit? 10% of the breadwinner's earnings, 20%, 30%, 50%. That's right, 20%. Quite different today, I can tell you that. True, false. Number 3. Dublin, which was an example I gave in the lectures, shows how an expansion of supply, housing supply, reins in house prices and restores affordability, which is a massive theory that our politicians in New Zealand are riding on to solve our housing woes. Did it work for Dublin? Hell no. Not even close. I would argue, and what I said in the lectures, is it probably made it worse. Number 4, banks can compete on interest rates, but not on the loan-to-income ratio, as this is regulated in New Zealand. Is that a true statement or a false statement? So banks can compete on interest rates, but not when it comes to loan-to-income, because the Reserve Bank basically regulates that. Is that a true or a false statement? That's correct. It is a false statement. The Reserve Bank has threatened and wagged a finger in the air to restrict debt-to-income ratios, never really loan-to-income, but anyway, that is not the case. Banks can compete on interest rates. You could go and negotiate with your bank, and although you don't really negotiate overtly about loan-to-income, that is definitely something that they can compete against one another and be more generous in how much income or how much debt they can supply to a given borrower. One bank can be more willing or less willing than another to supply, say, a particular loan size for the income of that single applicant. Last one, true, false. Interest-only loans imply an expectation that house prices will rise during the loan term. This is a bit debatable, but the answer here again lies in the lectures. So this is something that I talked about and an argument that I made. So you have to go with that. Okay, this is not totally open for your own interpretation. So yes, that is a true statement. Okay, this is as I explained in the lectures. Interest-only loans pretty much is, it assumes or implies an expectation both on the borrower and on the lender that prices will go up. And usually the underlying assumption is prices always go up because that's New Zealand and house prices always rise. It's just physics. Anyway, we'll see who got the top 12. Okay, at least there wasn't any questions here that were misleading and screwed you up, so I'm happy to see that. I'm going to skip this little animation. Yay! Next. Let's see where you are. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Full report. Come on, come on, come on. All right, here's my top 12 players. I lost 2 people. It's okay. Increases the odds for the rest of you. There you are. Good job. All right, so when we get back on campus, which fingers crossed we will, hopefully soon. Not this week, not next week, because we'll still be in alert level 2 come Wednesday. So it'll be the following week, which we don't even have a review session. Anyway, we'll figure it out, okay? I'll figure out how to get these chocolates to you guys. So, last one, guys, for today. Tournament number 2. Again, for another bag of chocolates. Just going to close these. $617-5602. This is the game pin for the 3rd Kahoot of the day and the last one. you haven't won chocolate so far, it's okay. I think I have a couple curveball questions in here. This might push things in your favor. I think that was 37 of you last time. Got 35, 36. Come on, where's 37? Okay. All right, I'm going to get going. Term number 2. 3, 2, 1. Oh, right out of the box. Ooh, type answer. There's only 4 questions. Oh, this is going to be fast and furious. In the year what? Long-standing controls around lending limits were abolished in New Zealand. So I need a year. So these are 4 numbers. What year were long-standing controls around lending limits abolished in New Zealand? And this really opened up the floodgates to allow credit expansion in this country. And this happened all over the world. But in New Zealand, it happened in this year. Come on. Oh, you guys are all over the place. How many of you got it right? 23. Okay. Well, that's not bad, not bad. Okay. Question number 2. If you were to engage a valuer as part of due diligence to buy a home for your family, you'd want to know the home's, would you want to know its insurable value, its use value, its market value, or none of these? What would you ask a valuer to produce for you? A something value report. Which one? That's right. You're going to ask for the market value. So the valuer is going to take the data on the market and reflect upon that and say, you know, if this house were to sell today or as of a certain date, the house would most likely sell for X dollars. And that'll give you an indication of what you might want to bid at an auction or put an offer in for that house. Or something maybe lower than that. 3 of 4. The quality of a building's finishes and fittings is an example of an structural attribute, externality, both of these things, none of these things. So is it both a structural attribute and an externality? Is it one or the other? Or is this a complete utter trick question and none of this applies? That's correct. So the finishes and fittings is a structural attribute. So that's that term, structural attribute, sometimes a bit tricky because you think structures is, oh, that must be the roof framing or the wall framing or something like that. But that's just talking about it's something that unique to that building. Okay. Doesn't mean that it has to be structural in terms of, you know, holding the building up, keeping it from blowing over or something. True or false? New basic jobs create a nonlinear rise of non-basic jobs. However, the reverse is not true. Okay, and the reverse I mean by a fall in basic jobs does not cause a fall in non-basic. That's what that statement's really saying. So is that true or false? Okay, and this is correct. That is false. The reason why it's false is that the reverse is true. So if you have, and we're in a sense, we are on the verge of experiencing, and in the example I gave in class, we are close to seeing this play out. The example I gave in class was an academic job like the job I have. And my argument in the lecture is that my job is a basic job. And it's partly a basic job because there are students that come from far and wide. Some international students come to New Zealand to get the educational services that we provide at the University of Auckland, people from outside of Auckland. So we're kind of we're exporting this service in a sense. And those jobs that involve providing services beyond the needs of the exact proportion of the population tend to be referred to as basic jobs. And then there are further jobs that have sometimes a direct relationship to what I do, and some have, like, say, non-academic positions at a university, but a lot of those non-basic jobs are totally unrelated directly, but because of the basic nature of, say, my job, they're there are more employment that is generated. So there's a nonlinear rise. But if you take away a basic job, for example, we have a pandemic and you have international students do not show up, and we have a gigantic fiscal hole in the university and people start losing their jobs, and you start losing basic jobs, that has a nonlinear fall in non-basic. So you lose a lot. So it might be a ratio of 4 to 1. And so you lose one academic job, you might lose 4, say, other jobs in the economy. So that's what that's about. And so this is not a true statement, it's a false statement because the reverse is true. Yeah, that's the gist of that. Here we go. Last 12. And I should be faster at this. I'm not very fast, am I? 38 players. And here is the leaderboard. Good job, guys. Again, there'll be chocolates for you. I'll figure out how to get them to you. All right, well, thanks for logging in, and there'll be a recording of this available, and I will see you guys next week for review session number 8. Cheers. Bye.